Today, I had the utmost joy and honor of speaking with Dr. Sue Johnson. Dr. Sue is the founder and leading authority on emotionally focused therapy, EFT, a type of therapy that helps individuals, couples, and families improve their relationships by understanding and managing their emotions. She has written dozens of books on the topic, including the bestseller, Hold Me Tight: 7 Conversations for a Lifetime of Love. Dr. Sue is a true pioneer in the field of psychology. She and her team have trained therapists around the world in EFT and have been instrumental in helping couples change their relationships. EFT offers a clear, scientific view of love. Dr. Sue teaches us that romantic love is all about attachment and emotional bonding. It is all about our wired-in need to have someone to depend on, a loved one who can offer reliable, emotional connection and comfort. I hope our conversation helps you open your heart, be more vulnerable in your own life and in your relationships. Enjoy. Welcome to Let's Talk Love, the podcast that brings you real talk, fresh ideas, and expert insights every week. Our guests are the most trusted voices in love and relationships, and they're here for you with tools, information, and friendly advice to help you expand the ways you love, relate, and communicate. We tackle the big questions, not shying away from the complex, the messy, the awkward, and the joyful parts of relationships. I'm your host, Robin Ducharme. Now, let's talk love. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special episode of Let's Talk Love. I am so honored and full of joy to welcome our guest today, Dr. Sue Johnson. Dr. Sue, thank you for joining us.
I think that's me. I think I'm Dr. Sue. Yes. Okay. That's what people seem to call me anyway. Yes.
Are you okay with that?
Absolutely. Of course. I don't care what you call me.
Well, I am just so honored. I feel like a giddy little schoolgirl introducing you and being able to speak with you for the next hour about the tremendous work that you have been doing on this planet. I know that you have transformed the lives of so many couples, individuals, and helped make relationships better. And that is, we are so aligned in this, Sue. That's my mission with the company Real Love Ready, is to help people learn how to be in relationship better. And that's what you do the best. That's what you do. So it's just such a beautiful synchronicity that we're here together today.
I'm happy to be here.
So I'm holding up your book, which I know most of our listeners have read. And if you haven't read Hold Me Tight, this is a book that we all must read. It's it's one of those that everybody has to have in their library for relationship skills and tools. And this isn't just about skills and tools. That's the thing, Sue, when I read your book. And it's taken me this long to read it. Can you believe it? But because I've been hearing about you for so long. And now I finally dove into it and have been diving into your work. And it's made a huge impact in my own life and my own relationships. So it's very exciting.
Good. It's amazing to me that it's been so successful. And it's very rewarding because, my whole childhood, my whole culture, I wouldn't have been able to say this to you as a child, but it was about relationships. It was an English working class pub, and it was really a huge community. And it was a community. As a child, I watched, everyone else was sort of watching little, nice little things for kids on TV. Well, I wasn't. I was standing behind the bar, cleaning glasses, watching adults fight and flirt and weep and it was the drama of relationships was always so obvious and so real for me. And what was obvious in that place, where there was quite a lot of pain and quite a lot of deprivation and quite a lot of PTSD, because it wasn't that long after the war, was that people came together and everyone longed for belonging. Everyone needed to belong. And it was so interesting because it was such a contrast then when I went to graduate school and I'd read all these books about, oh, well, intelligent adult people are separate, individuated, self-sufficient. I just remember sitting in all these lectures thinking, no, they're not. That's nonsense. I don't think so. So, the academic reality and the reality that was out there then didn't fit for me at all. So I was always kind of caught. But, and then attachment science came out. And if people don't know about attachment science, hey guys, love isn't a mystery anymore. There's a science. We know it. We know what it's for. We know how to make it. We know what goes wrong. We know why it matters. Hey guys, there's a science of romantic love and attachment, and it's got thousands of studies in it, and people don't know about it.
No, that's right, Sue. But I also wanted to, this was my, as Oprah would say, my aha moment when I was studying your work and really starting to integrate it into my own life, is that every week I interview a relationship expert on our podcast. And this is what we do, right? We're trying to learn so that we can integrate and change our own relationships. But one thing I want to say is that the attachment theory and the attachment like all the stuff that's in social media and amongst a lot of the work, the books that I'm reading, is not a true picture of what attachment theory, how we apply it now. And that's what you're teaching. That's what you've been teaching for decades.
Yeah.
Is that we've got it all wrong. This isn't just about understanding your own attachment. Let's say I'm an anxious attached person because of my childhood. Okay. I think I'm on that path. I think I understand that. But it's about understanding that and really bringing that into your adult relationships. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing I need to heal. Like I'm on a journey of healing. We all are. But the way that you are teaching this, and that's what your all your work is like, this is me. I'm a human being. And the way I was raised and bringing that into adult attachment, it's important for us to stay attached as adults.
Oh, yes. And the research is, well, it's people talk about attachment theory. It's not attachment theory, it's attachment science. The research is totally clear. We are social bonding human beings. Our children are vulnerable for much longer and more profoundly than almost any other species. As a little child, your nervous system knows that if it cries and no one comes, it dies.
Right.
Your nervous system knows that it needs a response from another human being. And what John Bowlby basically said is, and of course nobody's forgiven him for this in some places, he said Freud was wrong, that sex and aggression are not the most powerful motivations in human beings. What is the most powerful is the need to connect with another human being and look into that human being's face and have them call and respond. You call and they respond. They respond to you because they see you, they value you, right? You matter to them. And we are hungry for this in our society. I was watching a debate yesterday, which was all about, women and the sexual revolution, all this. And somebody said, well, if we're all so free, how come we're all so miserable? The data says that women in particular are more depressed and lonely than they've ever been, right? And I think out there's this huge hunger to understand how to create these love relationships. And it's our most basic need. It's our most basic survival strategy. Our survival strategy as human beings, when we are vulnerable or overwhelmed or lose our balance, is to call for another. And we all need at least one person to come. And the research says, if we have that knowledge, if we have that in our nervous system, and if we have that in our relationships, we are 1,000 times more resilient, can be more autonomous. We can explore. We can deal with our emotions. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on. It's just on. And it's fascinating because in some ways we're starting to understand. I'm very proud of the fact that Hold Me Tight as a book is now used by the US military, the
Yes.
Canadian military. Years ago, the Canadian military would have just laughed themselves to death at me giving them a lecture. Well, last time I gave them a lecture, they didn't laugh. Okay, so I'm very proud of the fact that we have programs based on Hold Me Tight, like the online Hold Me Tight program, holdmetightonline.com, that people can do themselves. And that even big organizations like the huge heart hospital in my capital city in Canada, they actually came to us and said, cardiologists don't come to psychologists basically and say, help. They just don't, okay? But they did. They came to us and they said, listen, we're looking at our patients who aren't doing well, the ones that don't take their meds, the ones that don't turn up for the appointments, the ones that don't go to the gym, the ones that have another heart attack. And what we notice is they've all got distressed relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And will you help us? I said,
They
absolutely.
have broken hearts in
They
a
have
way,
broken hearts.
right?
And
And yes, because emotionally, your heart is you're so attached. Like we are whole beings,
that's
right?
right.
And if you're in healthy relationships, your heart is not going to be healthy.
That's right. And the fascinating thing was one of the cardiologists said, people don't want that. People won't do it. People. And so we ran the program. Okay. It's called Healing Hearts Together.
Mm.
And we finally ended up getting a huge grant to continue the research. But we ran the program and we put it up in the halls and it was full in an hour.
Wow.
And so this is people's hunger. We know we need others. We know we don't just need others to be familiar with. That's not intimacy, familiarity.
No.
People confuse, these days people are going on to about, well, familiarity wrecks eroticism. Yeah, dead, ordinary familiarity does wreck eroticism. But guess what? An alive emotional bond, there's nothing more erotic than a body that's also emotionally engaged with another person, playing and doing erotic play. All the research says the people who have the best sex most often and like it the best, find it the most thrilling, are people in long-term, happy love relationships.
Those that can be completely raw and vulnerable, that know each other, that have that deep trust and that deep emotional bond, will have the most intimacy and the best sex.
Yeah, because if
Mm-hmm.
I'm safe with you
Yeah.
and I feel connected with you and our signals are synchronized and we can dance together in a beautiful way,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I can communicate my sexual needs. I can relax. We can play together. We can explore. I mean, good sex is erotic play. Hey, but we've done some really weird things with love. My God. This all started with me. Years ago, I was an Argentinian tango fanatic. And I was very bad at it. Okay, let's get this clear. I'm not tall and elegant, and I'm not. Okay, I don't suit tango. I'm small, and but I used to go to my tango lesson, and I used to walk through the main bookstore in my hometown, and I used to mutter to myself, I say, "Look at those books. Look at those. Look at that relationship section. It's all rubbish. It's all rubbish. It's telling people rubbish." And so then one day I walked through and I thought, "Hey, Johnson. Well, if it's all rubbish, then why the hell don't you write what you've been doing for the last 20 years, which is changing the field of couple therapy, showing people reliably, and we can show you in research our results, and we know we get results, and we know they last." I think we're the only couple therapy that can really show you that. I
And
mean,
so your therapy, Sue, is called emotionally focused therapy.
yes.
So can you please tell us what that means? Because you are absolutely a pioneer in actually helping people understand that our attachment, our emotional bonding is the most important, and translate and moving our attachment from childhood into adulthood and making us understand how important that is.
Yes. So from our point of view, emotion is the music of the dance of connection between people. You can exchange all kinds of information, but when you look at how people really dance together in terms of connection, disconnection, it's the emotion. It's the emotion that organizes your inner world, tells you what you need, tells you to turn towards this person or away, to be careful or to be relaxed. It's your emotion that organizes that. And it's your emotional cues that are the music that you send to this other person that then invites them into a particular kind of dance, a safe dance of connection and sharing, or not, a dance of defensiveness, fear, vigilance, So I was very clear. I went to graduate school and everyone was saying, oh, just ignore emotion. What matters is cognition and behavior. And I used to I was the bad-tempered little student in the back of the room, and the professor would say things like, and everybody agrees with me, don't they? And I'd say, no, I don't agree with you. No. Right. And I think people found me amazingly irritating, but but I didn't. And I'd say, no, if you're going to change relationships, and if you're going to change people, if you're going to get people to look at their pain and go into new places, you have to go to the emotional level. You have to make them feel safe. So, this was all very interesting. But of course, then I went to work. I'd work with groups. I'd work with violent men. I'd work with individuals, families, adolescents. And then I went to work with couples. And I had all this in my head, but bottom line is, I had no idea how to actually translate that into helping people. And I would sit with these couples at the beginning and think, what is this? What the hell's going on here? They're just demolishing each other all the time. It's like, so I went to all the books. None of them helped me. And thank God, I started taping all my sessions. And I started watching them like a crazy person. Like I'd watch them 20 times. And I started to get it. I started to get that, yes, these people were fighting about connection and disconnection. They weren't really fighting about who was going to do the washing up.
They weren't fighting about money. They're not fighting about.
No, they're fighting about, do I matter to you, right? Can you see me? Will you come if I call?
Right. Are you there for me?
Yeah, are you there for me? So we call it ARE. Are you accessible, responsive, and engaged? Which the research says is what creates a secure bond, whether it's between a mother and a child or whoever, right? Are you there for me? But of course, they don't know how to ask it in those terms. Right. So they're upset. And somebody's in our society, somebody's usually blaming. Yeah. Maybe the woman, not always. And it comes out as a criticism and a blame, like, you never talk to me. Why don't you ever talk to me? You talk to your male friends, but you don't talk to me. So listen to her. It's telling him that he's a disappointment. And unfortunately, he doesn't see the need and the desperation underneath. But I did. And he doesn't see the human vulnerability underneath. He just hears that she's angry with him and he's criticized.
Yes, he's taking that personally, and he's right away feeling the blame and the shame. So, Sue, what are you hearing underneath that? Oh, you never talk to me.
I'm hearing, do you see me? Do you see me? Do I matter to you? Do you need me? Am I important to you? Can you see me? Will you be there for me? Will you respond to me emotionally? And of course, the answer she gets is no, right? And it's kind of a blame withdraw thing. And what he does is either stay intellectual and give reasons, which doesn't work, because there's no emotional connection in it, or he shuts down and shuts her out. Well, when he shuts her out, he confirms all her worst fears. That indeed he can shut her out. He can shut her out anytime, and then of course she gets more frantic And then she'll cry, and he doesn't know what to do with that either because he doesn't understand it. So he he sort of moves away, the patterns here became so clear after a while. And it
Yes.
was so clear how these two people were, he was feeling rejected and told he was, the big disappointment. I'm the big disappointment. And she's feeling like she doesn't matter and she's abandoned. And so many marriages end up stuck here.
Right.
And they get stuck here for years. The point is, what we do in EFT is we go to the emotional level. We help people befriend their emotions, understand their emotions, make sense of them. We help people see what's happening in this dance. And we blame the dance.
Right.
Not-
You blame the dance, not the people dancing.
And all of us get stuck in dances.
Yes.
There's nobody who doesn't. My wonderful son, for about 3 years when he was about 16, boy, did we ever get stuck. And I knew we were stuck. I could see it happening.
Yeah.
And we did it anyway. I would
Mhm.
say, I notice, I'm trying to be positive, but listen to my voice. I notice that you aren't doing your assignments. I wonder what that's about. So he rolls his eyes at me, right? That's it. I'm gone.
Right now, he's feeling like you're being critical, you're being negative, right? I can just imagine where he's going with that,
It was
right?
bad. But
So Sue, can you give me an example of how you would approach that differently from the emotionally focused
oh,
lens? Like, how about this? Would you say something like, "Son, I am afraid. I feel fear when I'm seeing. This is my perspective that
got
you
it. That's
are."
brilliant,
Or what
lady.
would you say? What would you say to actually get to the point of how you are emotionally feeling about the situation?
Well, I tell you what did actually happen. I was in Starbucks on a Saturday morning in my hometown, and people know me, and so this was particularly not a good idea. And my son and I were standing in the queue, and I said, I was trying to be reasonable, but my voice, right? I said, I noticed that, da 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 da, your marks and da da da. And he rolls his eyes, and I said something like, "What are you doing rolling your eyes? You're rolling your eyes at me." Well, like, come on, Sue, this is Saturday at Starbucks. Anyway, he says, "Mum, you are being," what did the word he used? I can't remember. Something like, "Oh, you are being impossible," or something. And I said, "Impossible! Oh, impossible! Oh," and so I lose it,
Yeah.
and he shuts me out and turns away. And the only way we stop, we all get stuck in these things because other people matter so much to us, and we have so many vulnerable emotions. The barista said, "Would you like cinnamon on top of that or not?" And that changed everything. So we sat down, and my wonderful son said, bless his heart, "Hey, Mum, that conversation didn't go too well, did it?" So
Aw,
he stood back, which is what we do with couples, and say,
yeah.
"Look at the dance you're caught in. Oh dear, this dance is defeating you and leaving you both alone and hurting." So I said, literally, you were very wise in your comments. I said, "You're right, Tim. I started at the wrong place." What I should have said is, "I'm getting really scared. I'm scared that I don't really know what's going on with you. I know that you're a very clever kid, and I know that you're just failing everything in school and you won't talk to me. And I'm feeling desperate and a bit helpless, and I don't know what to do." And he said, "Ah." So this is new, right? He said, "Ah, okay, Mum. I'm not failing everything. I've totally failed everything. I've completely messed the grade. All my friends are going to university. I'm not. You're right. I'm not talking to you. I've messed everything up." So my house was 6 blocks away, By the time we had walked those 6 blocks, we were holding each other and we made a plan for how to help him go to the school down the road and redo his marks. And we reconnected after, I'd say, at least 2 or 3 years of antagonistic, stuff. And that's what happens in couples too. It's so
Wow.
touching. Doing EFT is moving because you show people this pattern and you say to a man, how are you feeling right now? And he says, she thinks he's indifferent, right? And with my help, he says, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know what to do when she gets mad. She matters so much to me. I don't know what to do. So I freeze up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm overwhelmed. And I just avoid. And you're right, it doesn't work. And I'm inside. I feel awful. I feel like I'm not who she wants. And I say,
Underneath it all, he's revealing like just this raw emotion and he's not able to verbalize, but now he is.
He's not even able to label it before. And
Right.
I say, and then of course we create a new dance where I say, can you tell her I do shut down? I do shut you out because I'm overwhelmed and scared and I don't know what to do. So he does, because I've created the safety, and it's fascinating. I mean, sometimes people don't know what to do. They kind of go, no, this isn't the person I've been married to. And you have to help them. You have to help them orientate to it, and but lots of times they just go, I didn't know that.
Right. So there's so many examples in this book, Sue, that hundreds of examples, and you're sharing. There's so many times when these couples are in these demon dialogues that you call them in the book,
Yes.
where the partner, it doesn't matter how many years they've been together. It's like the other partner's shocked that they didn't know that, right? They've been fighting in the same ways. They've been you call it the protest polka, where they're both in this they're both going back and forth, withdrawal and wanting to gain connection, but it's not working for them. And then when it comes down to the raw emotion that they're sharing, like it's actually quite common that one partner is like, I did not know that you were feeling that way. They're just so incredibly shocked.
Well, we as EFT therapists, we hear the basic emotions, the fears and the needs and the longings. When we tune into those, and from our point of view, I don't think I've ever seen a distressed relationship in a family or in a couple where the basic question wasn't, are you there for me? Do you see me? Can I be safe with you? Are you there for me? And from my point of view, maybe it's changed, I hope so, with our work. Most couples therapies didn't deal with that at all. They taught people skills. Skills
Right.
are great. The trouble is you can't use them when you lose your emotional balance. So you can't use them when you need them, okay? So they taught people.
Exactly.
Right. So this is a different way of seeing, and it's about accepting our needs as human beings. Your need for other human beings to respond to you is wired into your nervous system. It's not optional. Okay? You can do weird things with it. You can wipe it out. You can get addicted. You can decide it's dangerous. And some of us grew up in very traumatizing relationships, so it is dangerous. But the bottom line is you've got that basic need for responsiveness from other people. And it's our basic survival guide. It's the way we've survived. I mean, look at us. We've got no claws. We're sort of pathetic, really, in the animal world. I mean, how did we get together? How did we survive? We got together. That's how we survived. We got together and we said, hey, that's a big elephant. What do you think? Should we run away? And the other dude said, yeah, all right. Or, well, what should we do if he comes after us? And, if people have this connection, it changes everything. But what we also did, which I think is crucial in our research, and by the way, when I say research, we've got 30 years of peer-reviewed, excellent research on all kinds of things. You can go to our ICEF site, and look at all the research. We study everything. Okay, that's what we do. We're research clinicians. We teach all over the world in 40 countries, and we research everything. But what I think I'm most proud of is if you're going to change people in their relationships and the way they put their emotions together, their relationships with themselves and with others, you have to know where you're going. And you have to have a real image of what change looks like. It's not just sharing insights. That's a waste of time. People love insights and then they forget them 2 days later. Mm-hmm. So we watched people change and we did all these studies. We know how to, we not only know how to help you step out of negative patterns that leave you both alone and rejected and abandoned, we know the hold me tight conversation you have to create a secure bond. And it doesn't just help you have a better relationship. Our research says it literally helps you create a more secure bond, which is what your nervous system is wired to seek in this life, and is what gives us resilience and strength, right? Allows us to deal with our vulnerability well. So we would watch.
And it also, and that translates, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Sue, but that translates into your other relationships.
That's right.
Because you're using, like, you're understanding it. I heard you in a different interview talk about how somebody asked you the question, well, because we have all these skills, right? The I statements. This is how you communicate. This, right? But like you said, you forget in the moment, in the heat of the moment. But once you learn about getting down to the deepest emotions of yourself and being able to recognize that in another person, it's like you don't forget. You don't forget the feeling. And it's like it's integrated, right?
You don't forget because your nervous system goes, oh my God, this is what I've been longing for. This is what I need. Oh my God. When we do these hold me tight conversations, we know how to set them up. We know how to take care of them. And, people struggle with them because for some people, it's really quite dangerous to let yourself need another person and to accept that. But, when we create these conversations, they're like emotion. I don't know what to call them. I'm still struggling. They're like emotional epiphanies. They're like, therapists talk about, in order to really create change, you've got to have a corrective emotional experience. What the hell is that? I don't know. Therapists have been searching for it for years. I know what it is. It's this ability to tune into your vulnerability, especially with another human being, and to share, to touch your fear, your vulnerability, your need, and to reach for the other human being in a way that helps them come towards you. So,
yes.
Somebody says, I do get angry with you. I am outrageous. I do scream at you. I get so desperate. I'm desperate. I just don't think I matter to you and I can't bear it. And I just want you to, and I say, and how could he help you? What do you need? I just want to know that I matter to him and that I'm his special one. And then she bursts into tears and he reaches across and says, you've always been my special one. We just got stuck in this dreadful thing.
Yes, but she needed to hear that and he needed to say it. So
That's
Sue,
right.
can you lead us through? I know you have very poignant questions that you ask your couples so that you can get into, like you say, the hold me tight conversations are where you're changing behaviors. You're changing the whole dynamic of the relationship so that you can create this strong bond. Yeah. So what are you asking your couples so that they can actually get to that place?
Well, when they first come in, you can get all these assessments. Psychologists love assessments, and you get all these questions. But what we do as EFT therapists is we walk straight into how you put your emotional and relational experience together. So we basically say, the couple says, well, we're unhappy and think we're going to divorce and da 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 da. And we fight about the chores and we fight about the kids. And I say, And then what I say is, tell me what that looks like. Well, what's the last time you had a fight? What did it look like? And of course, I set it up so they do it in front of me. And I see the dance. And instead of going with the content, like, well, let's make a deal that you can do the washing up, that's a waste of time. I say, oh, so could you help me? This is the way you guys dance together. You turn and you don't feel like he's listening and you don't feel important. So you up your voice and you tell him all the ways that he's disappointing you. And then you give her some reasons and then you find a way to go out with the boys. And this has been going on for a while. And I'll go into the emotions. This is very difficult for you. And sometimes people have a hard time. People will own anger, right? But vulnerability. So she says, well, I'm just angry. But if you're an EFTer, that underneath anger is threat, vulnerability. And so you say, and you stay in the moment and you say, and what's it like for you right now to hear him say, I guess I do run away. I do run away because I don't know what to do in the fight. What's that like for you to hear him say that right now? And she doesn't even know, right? She doesn't even know. She says, confusing. I say, yes. So we walk into how people put their emotions together, their dance together, and we look at it with them and we see whether it leads them into connection or disconnection. And you can do this with an adolescent and a parent. You can do it with an
siblings, right?
Yeah. You can do it with any relationship, right?
Yeah. So in the book, there's 7 conversations that you lead people through.
And one is you look at the protest polka and you say, where are you stuck? Let's look at that. Let's look at where you're stuck. What do you do in the places where you can't meet each other? Let's look at those conversations. And then you go into, what is the emotional music? What's happening, underneath this in your softer feelings, in the feelings of, fear and loneliness. Like one of the big things that John Bowlby, the father of attachment, said is, and it's so funny because it's like we're discovering this in our society now all over again. He said, for human beings, for social bonding human beings, emotional isolation is iatrogenic. It's aversive. It's traumatizing in itself. We're not wired for it.
No, we're not. Emotional isolation is toxic. You say that. And that is an experience that a lot of couples face, is emotional isolation, and how incredibly painful that is. You could be in a relationship with somebody and feel completely isolated, right?
That's right. So some people say things like, it's easier to just live alone and know that I'm alone than to try and live with you when I'm constantly trying to find you and I can't find you anywhere. And there is some truth to that, but I think what's important is just to realize is that aloneness, it's not just about dancing with another person. It's something we carry in ourselves. And I invite people to think about, if you've had 1 or 2 really good attachments in your childhood, then your nervous system is wired to basically trust other people and believe that other people will be there for you. And you have that as a resource your whole life, okay? My main attachment, I think, was my father. He was an uneducated working class man. I don't know how he ever decided to treat his little stroppy working class daughter the way he did, but he treated me. He told me, you can do anything. You're special. I mean, why did he do that? We were poor and working class, and that wasn't really the reality, but he found ways. So the issue is, he's still there. I have his voice and I carry it with me. And the emotional lessons he taught me are still there. So this
Mm.
gives me the ability to risk and trust. And we work a lot in individual therapy with traumatized folks who have never had this trust, who've been desperately hurt by the people that they depended on, and how awful that is, and how hard it is then for them to reach and take the risk of actually connecting with another person and showing their vulnerability. But it's an internal thing. Emotional isolation, you can live alone and have an internal world of safe loving others, or you can live alone and have a desert. When I went to the military in Canada, one of the things I said is, they said, we don't want our soldiers to keep committing suicide. I said, I understand.
Oh, wow.
And they said, I said, but do you know that something like, I'm not sure about the actual accuracy here, but do you know that 75% of our soldiers who actually commit suicide, they do it in the 2 weeks after their partner has left them? There's a silence in the room. I said, and you guys don't help the partners understand. A man goes off to war, he comes back, he's a different guy.
Yeah.
You don't help the partner with that. You don't, there's no support for that. So she's now with a stranger, or
Yes.
he's now with a stranger, and everything starts to go wrong. This person is triggered, they're angry, or they're numb, and nobody helps them. So what do you think is going to happen?
Mm.
The relationship's going to fall apart. And then what do you think is going to happen? I tell you, the soldier's going to get worse. Hopefully it doesn't end up in suicide. And they listen to me. They actually listen to me. And, this is the power of relationships. But I think what's important is not just us knowing how to have good relationships, which, my goodness, in our chaotic world, dealing with all the uncertainty has become more important than ever. It's not just that, it's about knowing who we are.
Right.
We are not these separate little automatons that can fill our life full of screens and tasks. And, we are emotional human beings with fears and needs, and we are strongest together. That sounds like a cliche. It is.
It's absolutely true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely true.
We
And
have to reprogram, and we have to change our beliefs around this, Sue, because it's so ingrained in our culture now. And it has been for a very long time. This idea about independence and being strong and self-reliant. And I love the example that you give around, looking in the mirror every morning and be like, you're awesome, you're strong, you're like, and you say, actually, what you need to be doing is looking somebody else in the eyes.
it's like we're in love with invulnerability. Look at our movies. Look at Rambo. Look at the way we set men up. God, we're in love with invulnerability. Live forever. Be powerful. Be popular, for goodness sake. Internet, be separate. Make your own life. Where's the stuff about mattering to other people and being connected to other people? It gets lost. And it gets lost in the sex story too. It
Yes.
gets lost because we seem to have decided that familiarity, which is not secure attachment, it is not. It's kind of a dead one surface thing. That will wreck sexual eroticism. Probably it will. But we have research that when our couples come in, even if we don't talk about sex at all, they have better sex lives at the end. Of course they do.
Yes, of course they do. And there's a whole section in the book. This is another, like you said, Sue, we could do 3 or 4 episodes talking about all of your work, many, many more. But, you do emphasize that, what we just talked about, but also the importance of human touch.
Yeah.
And how in a lot of couples, when they are in this, place of prolonged distress, they're not touching anymore. They're not looking
No.
each other in the eyes. They're not having conversations. They're not physically touching, and how important human touch is. And
Yeah.
we can understand that from a parenting point of view. We can understand how babies, they need to be, children need to be touched in order to thrive. Like that's a human
Absolutely.
need. And as adults, we need that just as much.
That's right. And I talk in the book about 3 different kinds of sex.
Yes.
There's what I call sealed off sex, which is hookups, put your emotions away, pretend that you're an automata, just seek an orgasm, get the best orgasm you can, and it's empty, and people still feel alone, and it's not satisfying. It's certainly not satisfying for women, but I don't think it's satisfying for men. And we call that sealed off sex. You're just going through the motions to get to get sensation, right?
Yes.
And of course, porn has taken that and made it almost the norm. And then there's what we call solace sex, which is not about sex. It's about my client Danny saying to his wife, you don't make love to me often enough. Why don't you make love to me often enough? If you loved me, you'd make love to me 3 times a day. My best friend's wife makes love to him 3 times a day. His wife, you can see her, she looks immediately exhausted, right? And so, but listen to him. If you loved me, you'd make love to me 3 times a day. So here's their cycle. She says, I don't know what you're going on about. We went away for the weekend. We've been married for 30 years. I love you. I don't know what you're going on about. Didn't we make love on Sunday morning? Wasn't it good? And this is what Danny says. Yes. But will you make love to me tomorrow? So this isn't about orgasm. This is about Danny saying, I'm scared to death. He says, she loved my best friend. I know she did. I'm small. She's so beautiful. In other words,
He's not feeling important to her. He's not
that's
feeling
right.
deeply bonded and connected to her.
And the
So
only
he's turning to sex, and he's thinking that sex is going to be
And the only
that
I
a
said to him,
panacea.
when do you feel important to your wife? When are you sure of her? When they're actually making love and he's giving
Yeah,
her an orgasm.
he's feeling connected.
That's solid sex. And he doesn't touch her. And she doesn't touch him because she's so fed up. She shuts him out. She tries to respond to him, but she shuts him out, But that's solid sex. So it's not about orgasm. He says to me, I've got high testosterone. I thought, yeah, well, man, you've got high insecure attachment. That's what you've got.
Wow, but really that is it's true.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then you get synchrony sex, which is when people can open up and be emotional and physical and connect with each other and trust and play. And that is beautiful and turns people on. I stood once in the Netherlands and watched for an hour these 2 swans doing their mating ritual. My God, it was so beautiful. And they did the same thing. They entwined their necks and they put their heads down on their backs. They looked at each other and they entwined their necks. And this is like, can I predict your response? Will you respond to me? Are you there for me? And these 2 swans are bonding. And we're the same. This amazing bonding, our bodies come close. We're naked. We bond. We respond to each other just like we do with a little child. This is magic. We don't need to have new stimulation and new porn and new games to know that this is where it's at. Our nervous system goes, ah. I'm a bit biased here because I used to dance Argentine tango, 10 hours a week. And people think Argentine tango is this sort of weird dancing with the stars sexual thing. It's not at all. Argentine tango is about tuning in to another human being who you don't know, you've maybe never met before. The music holds you and gives you a structure and sort of tells you how to move. but you stand in front of somebody and you breathe and you pick up their breath. And then you start to move your weight. And you probably wouldn't even see it if you were watching. You move your weight. And there's a certain point when you tune in. You're like there. Okay. And then you move together to the music. And it doesn't happen in every tango, of course. But it is bliss. It's bliss. Our nervous system goes, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, holding this baby. Yeah, yeah, okay, it's 3:00 in the morning. My God, I want to go to sleep. My God, he's thrown up on me again. My God, why am I doing this? Oh, because I can feel him against my chest and he sighs. And when he sighs, my body responds, and dancing with this person and looking into my husband's face and having him reach for me at a moment when I know he's vulnerable. You're wired for this. This is your entitlement, your inheritance. And somehow in our society, we have moved away into novelty, novelty, what is new, you need 82 games to still get turned on. No, you don't, not if you're emotionally connected.
Right.
It's love is fascinating. The point is, we've cracked the code. John Bowlby and attachment science cracked the code, and we've cracked it, I'm very proud to say, in terms of taking John Bowlby's work and turning it into, okay, what do you do here, and how do you show people where they're stuck, and how do you help them move out and share their deepest fears and vulnerabilities?
Yes, it's sharing your deepest fears and vulnerabilities. And, in the book, you talk about like going down the elevator. We need to go down a couple floors here. Where's that anger coming from? What is actually underneath that anger? What is underneath, your protest? What is underneath? Because like that's just surface stuff. We need to go deeper and connect on this heart level, which Sue, I wanted to share a personal story just this week, because I've been in a struggle with my former husband, and it's been a lot of surface stuff, like serious stuff, but surface stuff. And after reading your book and really diving into Hold Me Tight, I'm like, I need to have a Hold Me Tight conversation here and share my vulnerability of where I'm at. And it really, I know that things have shifted because of the conversation we had a few days ago. So this works. Of course it works, but we just have to keep practicing it. Right.
Yes.
And yeah.
And there's so much crazy misinformation out there. We associate freedom with what I would call sealed off sex and sealed off interactions. Freedom. No, freedom's just a horse you ride to somewhere. If you're riding it to isolation, guess what? It's not a good horse. It's nonsense. Okay, it's just no, you guys. There's so much misinformation and weird stuff out there, and so many people writing about relationships from their opinions. I mean, they're trying to help, but I'm not talking about opinion here. I'm talking about what I know. I'm talking about over 30 research studies. I'm talking about that I can know how to change a couple in a particular way. And I can tell you that in 3 years' time, that she's going to be less depressed. He's going to be less anxious. They're going to have a more secure bond. They're going to have better sex, and they're going to have a good relationship. I can tell you that with 85% accuracy. Okay. This is not another marketing gimmick or somebody's brilliant idea about what relationship. This is science. Attachment science has thousands of studies on it. It's about who we are as human beings, how we grow, how we get stuck, how much we need each other, how we can create resilience and strength. It's, the strong human being is the human being who knows their vulnerabilities and their fears and needs and can accept them.
Well, Sue, Dr. Sue, I wanted to say that, anyway, I just have loved our conversation, but everybody has to read your book and go on. So you have your website called ICEEFT.
Yes. And
Can you tell us about how people can follow your work, and not just follow, we need to implement and learn and just bring emotionally focused therapy into our lives and in our relationships. So tell us about that, please, Sue, how people can continue with you.
Well, first of all, you can look in your community and see if people do EFT.
Yes.
Or you can look at the Hold Me Tight. There's maybe a group in your community. You can look at the online Hold Me Tight online program. There's all kinds of things out there. There's support for Hold Me Tight. And we actually have, I think my wonderful folks in my institute now have a new newsletter called Emotional Health Newsletter that you can go into my website and find, drsuejohnson.com.
Yep.
There's lots and lots of stuff on there, lots of little clips and, lots of little, and I'm blown away. I'm all over I'm on YouTube. You can go, there's all kinds of YouTubes of me talking about relationships. We train therapists all over the world, health professionals. Mm-hmm. So you can look in your community and see if there's Hold Me Tight resources.
Well, we will make sure that we put all the websites on the show notes. And I want to thank you with my whole heart for
You're most welcome. It was fun
with us today. I'm going to close with a blessing. And this is all sentiments from you, Dr. Sue. So may we be reminded each and every day of the power of connection, the power of vulnerability, and the power of love in our lives. May we turn towards one another. By sharing our deepest feelings and emotions, we can forge a bridge of connection and closeness with others. And may we hold each other tight and be held by them, remembering our greatest joy and fulfillment in life is through the relationships we have with each other. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, sweetie. It was really, really fun. I enjoyed it. And thank you for that lovely thing you just said. That's lovely.
Please visit realloveready.com to become a member of our community. Submit your relationship questions for our podcast experts at reallovereadypodcast@gmail.com. We read everything you send. Be sure to rate and review this podcast. Your feedback helps us get you the relationship advice and guidance you need. The Real Love Ready podcast is recorded and edited by Maya Anstey. Transcriptions by Otter.ai and edited by Maya Anstey. We at Real Love Ready acknowledge and express gratitude for the Coast Salish people, the stewards of the land on which we work and play, and encourage everyone listening to take a moment to acknowledge and express gratitude for those that have stewarded and continue to steward the land that you live on as well.